What if everything you've been told about AI PCs is wrong? For the past 2 years, Microsoft has been pushing one idea harder than almost anything else, and that is your next computer needs to be powered by artificial intelligence, and that features such as Copilot will fundamentally change how you work, create, and even think while using a PC. But now, one of Microsoft's biggest hardware partners is quietly pulling the brakes. Dell, one of the largest PC makers in the world, has effectively admitted something the industry didn't expect to hear this soon. People are not buying computers because of AI. And once you understand why, you start to see how this could reshape not just Dell's strategy, but Microsoft's entire vision for the future of Windows. To see how we got here, you have to go back to when the AI PC idea first took off. Around 2023 and 2024, the tech industry became fixated on the concept of bringing artificial intelligence directly onto personal computers. Microsoft, working alongside chip companies like Intel, AMD, and Qualcomm, began introducing a new category of machines built specifically for AI workloads. These devices came with specialized hardware called NPUs, designed to handle AI tasks locally without relying on the cloud. Microsoft branded this shift around Copilot, positioning it as a built-in assistant that could summarize documents, generate content, automate workflows, and even recall past activity on your device. On paper, the pitch sounded transformative. Your PC would no longer be just a tool you operate, but something that actively assists you. Tasks that once took minutes could be reduced to seconds. Information you forgot could be instantly retrieved. Creative work could be accelerated with AI-generated suggestions. It was framed as the next major evolution in computing, something comparable to the arrival of the internet or the smartphone. And for companies like Dell, this wasn't just a software story. It was an opportunity to sell a new generation of hardware designed around that promise. Dell moved quickly to align itself with this direction. It launched AI-capable laptops, highlighted Copilot integration, and built systems optimized for these new workloads. The expectation across the industry was clear. AI would trigger a major upgrade cycle. Consumers and businesses alike would feel compelled to replace older machines with these new, more intelligent systems. For a PC market that had been slowing down, this was supposed to be the catalyst that reignited growth. But when these devices actually reached users, something unexpected happened. The excitement that existed in presentations and product launches didn't translate into real-world demand in the way many had predicted. People didn't rush to stores asking for AI-powered laptops. They didn't treat Copilot as a must-have feature. Instead, the buying behavior looked surprisingly familiar. Customers continued to prioritize the same things they always had: performance, battery life, build quality, and price. AI, despite all the attention, didn't move to the top of that list. By early 2026, this gap between expectation and reality became harder to ignore. During industry events and interviews, Dell executives began acknowledging what they were seeing in the market. AI features were not driving purchasing decisions. In some cases, they were not even clearly understood by customers. That's a significant shift in tone from just a year earlier, when AI was being presented as the primary reason to upgrade. Now, it was being treated more like an optional layer rather than the core value proposition. What makes this moment particularly important is who it's coming from. Dell isn't an outsider criticizing Microsoft's strategy. It's a key partner in the Windows ecosystem, a company that depends on Microsoft's software to sell its hardware. When a company in that position starts dialing back the emphasis on AI, it signals that the issue isn't just marketing, it's demand. And demand is shaped by how people actually experience technology, not how it's described in a keynote. One of the biggest reasons for this disconnect is that AI, in its current form on PCs, doesn't solve a clearly defined problem for most users. If you ask someone why they want a new laptop, the answers tend to be straightforward. Their current device is slow. The battery doesn't last. The system feels outdated. Rarely does someone say they need AI capabilities. That doesn't mean AI has no value, but it does mean it hasn't yet become a primary driver of purchasing behavior. Without that clear need, it's difficult for any feature, no matter how advanced, to influence buying decisions at scale. Another issue is how these features are presented and experienced. Tools like Copilot can summarize text, generate responses, and assist with tasks. But for many users, it feels like an additional layer, rather than something deeply integrated into their workflow. It sits there, available but not essential. When technology feels optional instead of necessary, adoption tends to be slower. And when users don't fully understand what a feature does or how it benefits them, it creates friction instead of excitement. There's also the question of trust, which has become increasingly important as AI capabilities expand. Some of Microsoft's more ambitious features have raised concerns about privacy and data usage. The idea of a system that can track and recall everything you've done on your PC might sound useful in theory, but in practice, can feel intrusive. When features trigger that kind of reaction, they don't just fail to attract users, they actively push some of them away. Trust, once shaken, is difficult to rebuild, and it plays a major role in whether people are willing to embrace new technology. On top of that, there's a perception problem created by how AI performs in real-world scenarios. While demonstrations often highlight best-case outcomes, everyday use can be less consistent. When users encounter errors, limitations, or results that don't meet expectations, it reinforces the idea that the technology isn't fully mature. That doesn't mean AI won't improve, but it does mean that, right now, it can feel more like a preview of the future than a finished product you can rely on. All of this creates a challenging situation for Microsoft, and because its broader strategy increasingly revolves around AI. Copilot is being integrated across Windows, from the interface to the keyboard itself. Hardware partners are encouraged to build systems that support these features. The messaging is consistent and persistent. AI is the future of the PC. But Dell's recent stance highlights a key tension. If users don't see AI as a compelling reason to upgrade, then the entire strategy faces a bottleneck. This becomes even more significant when you consider the upgrade cycle Microsoft was hoping to trigger. Many users are still holding on to older devices, and adoption of newer operating systems hasn't accelerated as much as expected. AI was supposed to change that to give people a reason to move forward. Instead, it's becoming clear that the presence of AI alone isn't enough to drive that shift. People are willing to wait until there's a more tangible benefit. In response to this reality, Dell has started adjusting its approach. The company isn't abandoning AI altogether. The hardware still supports it, and the features are still there. But the way it's being presented has changed. Instead of positioning AI as the main selling point, Dell is returning to a more familiar message focused on overall quality. Better performance, better design, better reliability. AI becomes something that enhances the experience rather than defining it. This shift might seem subtle, but it represents a broader recalibration. It acknowledges that while AI is an important part of the future, it isn't yet the primary factor influencing how people choose their devices. But by focusing on fundamentals, Dell is aligning its messaging with what customers actually care about today, rather than what the industry hopes they will care about tomorrow. What's happening here isn't limited to one company. Across the tech industry, there's growing recognition that the rollout of AI and personal computing may have been ahead of its time in terms of expectations. The technology itself is advancing quickly, but user adoption tends to follow a different timeline. It depends on clarity, reliability, and perceived value. When those elements aren't fully in place, even the most advanced features can struggle to gain traction. At the same time, it's important to understand that this doesn't mean AI and PCs is failing. It means it's evolving. That many technologies go through this phase where the initial hype outpaces practical usefulness. Over time, as the technology improves and integration becomes more seamless, it finds its place. The difference is that instead of being the headline feature, it often becomes part of the background, something users rely on without thinking about it. That may ultimately be where AI and personal computing is headed. Instead of being something you consciously interact with, it could become an invisible layer that enhances performance, manages resources, and simplifies tasks without drawing attention to itself. In that scenario, the value of AI would be real, but it wouldn't need to be marketed as aggressively because users would experience it directly through improved outcomes. For Microsoft, this presents both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is clear. It needs to bridge the gap between vision and reality, ensuring that its AI features deliver consistent, tangible benefits that users can immediately recognize. The opportunity lies in refining how those features are integrated and presented, shifting from a focus on what AI can do in theory to what it actually does in practice. Dell's recent comments serve as a kind of reality check for the entire ecosystem. They highlight the difference between technological capability and consumer demand, and they show how quickly narratives can shift when those two things don't align. For now, the message from the market is straightforward. People aren't rejecting AI outright, but they aren't prioritizing it either. And that leads to a bigger question about the future of computing. Is AI something that needs to be front and center, constantly promoted and emphasized? Or is it something that works best when it's quietly integrated, improving the experience without becoming the main focus? The answer to that question will shape not just how companies build their products, but how they talk about them. Right now, Dell is betting on a more grounded approach, one that puts user needs ahead of industry trends. It's a reminder that no matter how advanced technology becomes, the fundamentals still matter. People want devices that are fast, reliable, and easy to use. If AI can contribute to that in a meaningful way, it will find its place. But if it remains abstract or inconsistent, it will continue to sit on the sidelines, waiting for its moment. So the next time you hear about AI transforming the PC, it's worth looking beyond the headlines. Because behind the scenes, even the companies building these machines are recalibrating their expectations. And if Dell is right, the future of AI and personal computing won't be defined by how loudly it's marketed, but by how seamlessly it fits into the experience people already value.